From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. With just 3 days left before the midterm elections, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. will lead the Meeting de Avance of the Alianza para sa Bagong Pilipinas' Senate slate in Mandaluyong City on Friday to promote the Bagong Pilipinas agenda of unity, reform, and strong national leadership. After 16 major rallies, Alianza's 11 senatorial candidates will cap the nationwide campaign along Mandaluyong City's 9 de Febrero Street and make a final push to woo Filipino voters. Alianza's campaign manager, Navota City Representative Toby Tiangco said the president would deliver a strong message of unity and gratitude at the Mandaluyong rally as Alianza seeks to lock in support from Metro Manila and neighboring provinces. Tiangco said the Alianza's senatorial ticket would stay focused on national interests, not in the 2028 elections. Alianza launched its campaign in President Marcos's bailiwick in Laoag City, Ilocos Norte Province on February 11th, followed by 15 other sorties in other parts of the country, including vote-rich Calabarzon, Bulacan, Pangasinan, and Negros Occidental provinces. The coalition also joined 2 province-wide Suroy-Suroy caravans in March and April, visiting multiple towns and cities across Cebu and further strengthening their grassroots presence in the vote-rich province. The Alianza slate also attended the local campaign rallies held in 4 packed venues across the cities of Angeles and San Fernando in Pampanga on April 23rd.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday congratulated re-elected Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese for his resounding federal election win. In a video message uploaded on his official X account, the president said he looks forward to his next conversation with the Prime Minister, whether it's over a flat white down under or a rich cup of chocolate or chocolate in Old Manila. President Marcos said the ties between the two countries have grown stronger, anchored not just in same values but in genuine friendship. In September 2023, the Philippines and Australia elevated their relationship to strategic partners to have a deeper collaboration in a wide range of areas aimed at bringing a more dynamic, cooperative, and prosperous future to both nations. The joint declaration on strategic partnership between the Philippines and Australia was signed by President Marcos and Albanese following their bilateral meeting at Malacañang Palace in Manila on September 8, 2023. Albanese is the first Australian Prime Minister to visit the Philippines since 2003.
To my friend, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, on your resounding victory, congratulations. This renewed mandate speaks volumes of the trust and confidence your people have in your leadership, and I have no doubt you shall carry it forward with the same resolve and vision that you have long defined your public service. The ties between our two countries have grown stronger with each passing year, anchored not just in shared values, but in genuine friendship. Perhaps this is a sign that it's time for another visit. I look forward to our next conversation, whether it's over a flat white down under or a rich cup of chocolate here in Old Manila.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has called on overseas Filipinos to participate in the upcoming midterm elections through the Commission on Elections or COMELEC's online voting and counting system or OVCS, saying the new system makes voting more accessible and secure for Filipinos abroad. In a video message, the president encouraged eligible voters overseas to seize the opportunity to join the democratic process, stressing that online voting eliminates traditional barriers such as travel and long lines. President Marcos urged voters to be deliberate and thoughtful in choosing their leaders. The chief executive's message follows the COMELEC's approval of a 3-day extension of the OVCS enrollment period, moving the deadline from May 7th to May 10th. The extension aims to accommodate requests from Filipino communities overseas and encourage greater participation. Enrollment, which began on March 20th, is required for overseas Filipinos to vote using the OVCS. Let us listen to the video message of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Mga kabayan, nakaboto na ba kayo? Tuloy-tuloy po ang overseas voting para sa halalan 2025. Ito po ang inyong pagkakataon na makilahok sa kinabukasan ng ating bayan. Ngayon, mas madali na ang pagboto. Kahit nasaan kayo sa mundo, hindi na kailangan pumila o bumiyahe. Sa pamamagitan ng online voting, may papahayag ninyo ang inyong boses na mabilis, ligtas at maayos. Gamitin natin ang karapatang ito. Piliin natin ang kandidatong may malasakit, kakayahan at may panindigan. Sa tamang pagpili, sama-sama natin bubuuhin ang bagong Pilipinas.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
House Secretary General Reginald Velasco confirmed that they have started preparations for the 4th State of the Nation Address or SONA of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. Just last week, Velasco said an interagency coordination meeting was held along with officials of the House of Representatives, Senate, Office of the President, and other concerned agencies such as the Philippine National Police or PNP, Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP, Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA, and the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA. Based on the initial meeting, around 27,000 personnel from various security and response agencies will be deployed to secure the SONA on July 28th. As part of its preparations, Velasco said, a list of executives, senators, diplomatic corps, and other attendees is also being prepared. According to Velasco, the number of attendees will most probably reach 2,000 just like last year's SONA. Besides the SONA, the House is also preparing for the opening of the 20th Congress, wherein the lower house will elect its new leader.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, on Thursday acknowledged the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA's latest report showing a decline in the number of unemployed Filipinos from 1.94 million in February to 1.93 million in March. Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao, the DSWD spokesperson, said, the drop in the number of unemployed individuals may be partly attributed to the Trabaho sa Bagong Pilipinas para sa Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program or 4-piece job fair, an interagency effort of the administration of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. In a statement, Dumlao said, this modest drop in the number of unemployed Filipinos reflects a positive development. More Filipinos, particularly from poor households, now have stable sources of income and are more capable of putting food on the table and meeting their daily needs. She added that this is the vision of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian for 4Ps members to have jobs so they won't return to poverty. In partnership with other government agencies, the Trabajo sa Bagong Pilipinas provides graduating 4Ps members with local and international employment opportunities, livelihood support, and other services of government agencies. Since its launch end of January, the 12 job fairs conducted nationwide resulted in 980 4Ps members hired on the spot, while more than 3,000 were waitlisted, awaiting feedback from employers or were completing employment requirements. Dumlao said the figure reflects the willingness of 4Ps beneficiaries to avail of government initiatives aimed at alleviating poverty and investing in human capital. The one-stop shop, Trabajo sa Bagong Pilipinas para sa 4Ps showcases booths from the DSWD, Department of Labor and Employment or DOLE, Department of Agriculture, Department of Trade and Industry, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority or TESDA, Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, Philippine Statistics Authority, National Bureau of Investigation, Philippine National Police, Social Security System, Bureau of Internal Revenue, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, and the Office of the President. Upon registration, the graduating 4Ps beneficiaries will undergo an orientation on the services offered by the participating government agencies. After the orientation, the 4Ps members will be given 3,000 pesos financial assistance each to pay for the pre-employment requirements, including medical examinations as well as transportation allowance. The DOLE will be in charge of coordinating with business establishments that are hiring new employees, while TESDA will conduct upskilling training among 4Ps members to ensure that they have the needed skills for employment. The DSWD Sustainable Livelihood Program or SLP will have a Sulong Trabajo SLP Employment Assistance booth to orient the 4Ps beneficiaries on the SLP's employment track.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, on Thursday reported that they experienced aggressive and dangerous maneuvers from China while conducting maritime patrols in the waters near Bajo de Masinloc. According to AFP Public Affairs Office Chief Colonel Cerces Trinidad, BRP Emilio Jacinto conducted maritime patrol operations in support to the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources or BFAR and the Philippine Coast Guard or PCG when a ship from the People's Liberation Army Navy or PLAN of China came in close contact with the vessel. Particularly, these ships were two Jiangkai II class frigates with bow numbers 554 and 573, as well as another ship of the China Coast Guard or CCG with bow number 5403. The harassment by China occurred at a distance of 11.8 nautical miles in the southern part of Bajo de Masinloc. The planned ship with bow number 554 was documented tailing BRP Emilio Jacinto at close range. Meanwhile, the other Chinese frigate with bow number 573 crossed the bow of the Philippine Navy ship, which is described as a high-risk maneuver as it could lead to a collision. The other CCG vessel with bow number 5403 also attempted to obstruct BRP Emilio Jacinto's navigational path. It also expressed serious concern over these irresponsible actions by Chinese maritime forces. The AFP said threatening and provocative conduct can lead to the misunderstanding that may escalate tensions and impact regional stability. Despite these challenges, the AFP said it remains committed to defending Philippine sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in its vast maritime domain, including its territorial seas in the West Philippine Sea. It said such actions are in accordance with international and domestic law and in pursuit of the rules-based order in the maritime domain.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Senate President Francis Escudero on Thursday condemned a reported plan by United States immigration authorities to deport undocumented Asian nationals, including Filipinos, to Libya, calling the move cruel and a violation of basic human rights. In a news release, the Senate President said, Filipinos are human beings who deserve to be accorded all rights by a state who claim to cherish and uphold them. The Senate leader expressed alarm over the policy's implications, citing Libya's volatile security environment and long-documented abuses against detainees. Human rights groups and several foreign governments have likewise condemned the plan, which they warn could place migrants in grave danger. A U.S. federal judge has halted the deportation of Asian nationals to Libya, noting that such a transfer could violate an earlier court order allowing the migrants to contest their removal to a third country. Escudero urged Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, to immediately verify the status of all Filipinos at risk of deportation and ensure they are provided legal assistance.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, has denied the request of election observers from the European Union, or EU, to allow them free access to voting centers on May 12th. In a news forum in Manila on Thursday, COMELEC chairperson George Garcia said, giving foreigners access to voting centers will not only disrupt the voting process, but will also violate Philippine laws. Garcia said that under the Omnibus Election Code, only voters, electoral board members, the watchers of citizens' armed and political parties, and COMELEC support staff are allowed inside polling centers. He added that entering polling centers without permission from the COMELEC constitutes an election offense. The request by the EU election observers to enter precincts was made through a formal letter to the COMELEC. Garcia said the foreign observers had told the poll body that prohibiting them inside polling precincts could violate international standards. Asked on the possibility of the EU observers coming out with a negative report on the Philippines following the rejection of their request, Garcia said the COMELEC is willing to face the consequences.
Dateline Malacañang.
Law enforcers arrested 2 Chinese nationals and seized from them an International Mobile Subscriber Identity, or IMSI catcher, an equipment capable of intercepting messages from communication gadgets like cellular phones used for spying. Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or PNP-CIDG Director Major General Nicholas Torre III on Thursday said, the CIDG operatives, along with local police and the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission, or PAOCC, nabbed the 2 Chinese nationals identified as Feng and Shi in Primavera homes in Baliwag, Bulacan Province on Wednesday. Torre said the IMSI catcher is a dangerous device that could compromise the privacy of individuals and even national security. The operation stemmed from reports of possible espionage involving 2 foreign nationals. The suspects detained at the CIDG Bulacan Provincial Field Unit will be charged before the National Prosecution Office for violating the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, on Thursday said the country's economy continued to grow in the first quarter of the year, surpassing other major economies in the region. In a briefing, National Statistician Dennis Mapas said Philippine economic growth slightly picked up to 5.4% in the first quarter of the year from 5.3% in the fourth quarter of last year. While growth slowed from the 5.9% expansion in the first quarter of 2024, the gross domestic product or GDP expansion during the period surpassed other major economies in the region. In a speech delivered by Undersecretary Rosemary Edilion, Department of Economy, Planning and Development or DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said, the Philippines ranked second among Asian neighbors that have already released their first quarter figures, trailing Vietnam at 6.9%, but tying it up with China at 5.4%. While outpacing Indonesia at 4.9%, Malaysia 4.4%, and Thailand forecasted to grow at 2.8%. All major economic sectors, which include agriculture, forestry and fishing, industry and services, posted year-on-year growths in the first quarter of 2025 with 2.2%, 4.5%, and 6.3% respectively. On the demand side, easing inflation helped boost household final consumption expenditure, which accelerated to 5.3% from 4.7% in 2024. Government final consumption expenditure also expanded at a faster pace, 18.7%, reflecting the front-loading of public programs in anticipation also of the election ban. Gross capital formation picked up to 4% from 0.8% in the same period last year. Exports of goods and services, meanwhile, grew by 6.2%, while imports rose by 9.9%.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes today's edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.